गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Okay, so we will complete the remaining shlokas that we have and then have some fun. So we were on 21, right? So we talked about the 3 gates to hell. Now basically he is concluding things. So what is the conclusion? He says, those who are free from 3 gates to darkness endeavor for the welfare of their soul and thereby attain the supreme goal. Look up in the text, in the Sanskrit text. Do you see Tamo Dwara? The first line. Etair Vimukta Kaunteya Tamo Dwara. You see that? Now you know Tamo means what? Tamas. So the translation says darkness, but now since you know the gunas, you have to understand it as tamas. Tamas means what? Stuck. Gone down. So he says, those who are free from these 3 tamasic gates, what do they do? Acharati atmanaha. Acharati atmanaha means literally tend to their soul. Tend to their soul means take care for the betterment of their Atma. Atma means their true self. Shreyaha. Shreya means welfare. Spiritual welfare, not something else. Tata yati param gatim. Param means supreme, okay. Gati means goal. So in this way they reach supreme goal. What is the supreme goal of yoga? Moksha. That's it. So basically what do we have to manage? We just have to manage 3 things. Simple. Kama, Krodha, Lobha. You should know them in Sanskrit also. Kama, you know. Krodha, Lobha. And one more I will tell you, maybe if I was, even though Krishna is in me, if I was to write the Bhagavad Gita, I would include one more. Which one? You know that, Fear. So, Bhaya. 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 Kama, Krodha, Lobha. Bhaya. Bhaya is the root. Fear is the root of all this. Now, a good way to look at it is, where are all those 3 gates? Is there a physical place? No. Where are they? In the mind. That means basically what he is saying, once you come out of these 3, you can really start working on your mind. Yeah, working on these 3 is also working on the mind, but once these 3, you really win over these 3, your mind is what? Stabilized. Honestly, if I have to tell you something, then only when you have a sufficient regulation over these 3 deep emotions, your meditative journey can start. This is post pratyahara. Huh? You understand this? When you are dominated by bhaya, kama, krodha, lobha, you think your mind will let you meditate? That's why we struggle. No? We struggle because we start meditating prematurely. In olden times, meditation, people did not go for meditation classes in their spare time. No, you had to literally what you call graduate to the state where the Guru said, okay, now you are ready for meditation. You know, when Parshurama went to Dattatreya to get knowledge, he asked first 12 years to Parshurama, that is the avatar of Vishnu. He said, go in the cave and for 12 years do your japa. After 12 years, he came to Dattatreya and then Dattatreya said, okay, now you are ready for knowledge. Now you see why Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi is at the end. And Patanjali calls it Samyama. Samyama means those three are together. Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Because they are not separate. We feel it separate. Why? Because we are for 30, 40 years, we are only in Dharana. Trying to concentrate, trying to concentrate, trying to concentrate. See, I usually give this example. You know, there is a student, there is a child, let's say your child. He does not yet realize the importance of studying. He goes to the school and does his homework with a ugly face, cries about it, and you as a mother, you are trying to say, study hard, that's the only way to be in the society, and all the things that the parents tell us. No, the child doesn't realize. So before the exam, what is the mood of the child? Doesn't want to study, but has to study. Now imagine the child grows up and sometimes it happens. Suddenly child realizes, whatever, because of competition or other, or sometimes company of good friends in the school. Suddenly they realize that, oh yeah, really, you know, it's important to study at least a little every day. And then one day the mother comes home, the child is studying happily. Mother is like, wow. And the child studies every day happily. That time nobody has to scream on the child. Study, exam is tomorrow, have you studied, where are your notes? Everything is done. This is, even in spirituality, this is the maturity. We have to mature. And let me tell you honestly, this all struggling with the mind is very, very fair. It's fine. It is the way. Again, I'm telling you that don't worry about the mental struggle and all this mental bullshit that goes on in your head. It is a valid part of the process. It doesn't make you bad, doesn't make you less spiritual. The best part is you are registering how difficult your mind is. That means what? You are on the path. Now, how much time will it take for me to come out of this mental confusion? That nobody can tell you. Not even a super realized guru can tell you, because nobody can check your karmic depth. Now, what kind of complicated mind have you brought on the path? How anybody can know? Okay, even if some super amazing guru can look into your mind and find out, still the guru doesn't know that the next moment you will be able to surrender. So you see, it's all very ambiguous. Yeah, I have brought a very complicated mind to the guru, but just looking at the guru, I surrendered everything instantly, and now that complicated mind is gone. Finished. Like this. That's why those who are self-realized, they will always tell you one thing, that self-realization is not a gradual process. It's an instantaneous process. Yeah, there's a lot of preparation, but self-realization happens, boom. It's like flip, and everything starts looking like completely different. So it like builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, and then boom. So treat yourself nicely. Be patient with yourself. Every time you are impatient with yourself on the spiritual path, you counter question yourself. Hey, Prasad, why are you so impatient with yourself on the path? Do you know how complicated mind you have? Do you know how many lifetimes of karmas you have to work? No. Then why are you impatient? That's why let me tell you a trick that I use. I don't even tell myself that I am on spiritual path. Really. Remember, I have told this to you many times that identities create problems. Patanjali also says this, na? Asmita creates ragadvesha. Now, if you call yourself spiritual person, you already have created a nice ground for all the problems to start. You know, like mothers have mom problems. Single people don't have mom problems. They can empathize. Oh, really? Oh, you have a small child and you can't sleep? Oh, I understand. But then when you leave them, you go home and nicely sleep. Like yoga teachers have yoga teacher problems. Somebody who is not a yoga teacher has nothing to do with their problem. Like I said yesterday, rich people have rich people problem. They don't know what to do with their money. Poor people don't know where to get the money. So everybody has their own problem. Every identity has a problem. Like Prasad will have his own set of problems. Prasad as a brother, another set of problems. Prasad as a son, another set of problems. Prasad as a yoga teacher, another set. Prasad as an Indian, Prasad as a man. Every qualification that I give to my pure consciousness is a breeding ground for suffering. That's why I'm giving you a simple trick. Don't have any ideas about yourself in your own head. Yeah, I mean, have basic idea, like basic survival idea. Oh, you're successful. Oh, you're famous. Oh, you're so nice. Thank you. Huh, like you know, oh, you are a mother. Of course you need it. Oh, you are a yoga teacher. Of course you need it. Play with these identities. Learn to play with these identities. Play means what? When you go to a class, you are a yoga teacher. When your class is over, you don't have to wear a feather in your cap. Oh, I'm a yoga teacher, look at me. Why? More the identities, more the suffering. The realized people don't suffer because they have absolutely no identity. The only thing they identify with is universal consciousness. And at that level of identification, there is no suffering. So who will give suffering to universal consciousness? If somebody gives suffering to universal consciousness, that means, what does that mean? Universal consciousness is not ultimate. Yes or no? Like they say, oh, Big Bang began 14.5 billion years ago. So next question is, oh, what was there before? What in what container did the Big Bang happen? I say, oh, God created everything. Then immediately the atheist will say, who created God? So if you say, oh, like that's why in Indian, like from the yogic understanding, you cannot say dark night of the soul. Like in some movies and all, you say, no, he traded the soul. He gave his soul for his love. You can't give soul for love and like this. Again, sorry to de-romanticize, but you know, oh, I gave my soul for my beloved. It's the same soul. Who will give what soul? The soul that you gave to and the soul who you gave it to, the same soul, it's one united consciousness. So really I'm telling you, if you go to office, be a worker, when you come out of office, finish. Don't wear your roles and identities like badge. You are not getting any badge of honor. Sorry. In fact, it will weigh you down. Don't take your identities sincerely, do your responsibility, roles, actions properly, but don't let it go inside your head. Means what? Means you should not crave for it. Like, I'm a yoga teacher, and nobody even knows that I'm a yoga teacher. And they say, hello, I'm Prasad, I'm a yoga teacher. So everybody knows you're a yoga teacher. Be adjective-less. Just live your noun. This is where Patanjali's Panchaklesha is so applicable. Avidya has happened. Now that one single avidya has created multiple asmitas. That is the problem. So you see, now, right? Avidya is not multiple. Avidya is single. Ignorance is ignorance. Types of ignorance is also coming out of the same ground. But that one ignorance has created multiple identities. And every identity, like if I have one business, I only have problem from one business. But if I have 5 businesses, different businesses, then the chance of having problem is 5 times. Imagine I have a manufacturing facility. Five factories in 5 different regions of Austria. So every factory, there will be worker problem, there is a staff problem, there is a supply problem, logistics problem. Every factory can be a ground for stress, suffering. And that's why they say, be in the world, do your things, but don't get attached to it, really. And remember how to not get attached to it. Keep reminding yourself, I'm not going to take any of these things back with me when I die. So really, bhoga apavarga in Sankhya, like they say, use the Prakriti to improve yourself. That's it. You cannot take this Prakriti there. Use it. Nothing wrong. That's why it is created. Now one more point here. Do you recognize that these 3 gates to hell are basically first 3 chakras? I mean, of course, the bhaya, the fear is number 1, but still. By the way, you can definitely say Krishna assumes. I mean, come on, if you have these three, you don't have to, somebody doesn't have to tell you that, hey, include fear also. So fear builds in this. Now look, Lobha means what? Jealousy, second chakra. Krodha is what? Third chakra, power, anger issues. Kama is what? Addiction, neediness, second chakra again. These are, again, remember, these are basal issues. They just keep us down, limited sense. Once you come out of that third chakra, heart. Then, what is the name of heart? Anahata means what? Unconditional. So you don't look at life as transaction. You look at the core, the heart of the issues. That is the time when your mind is really stabilized. So when people nowadays, people say, oh, my heart chakra opened up yesterday and all that. Yeah. People say that. Because heart chakra is what? Somebody told them it's green color. So they eat some green juice. Yeah. That's why I am on Instagram. Yes. Oh, I had green smoothie. My heart chakra has opened up. Why? Because somebody told them heart chakra is green color. Or wear green color dress. Heart chakra opened up. So all trees, their heart chakra naturally opened up. Go hug them. Or the worst is the backbending. Backbend, open the heart. You're breaking your lumbar spine. That L5 is slipping over S1, your heart center still not opened up. I mean, I know you are all not going to fall for all this, but still, it's really a joke. So what has backbend got to do with opening the heart? We call it heart opener practice, no problem. But how much? And teachers teach. The deeper you go in backbend, the more your heart will open. I mean, thoracic spine doesn't even bend that much. All your bending is lumbar spine. You want to open your heart and your body kidneys will open. Yeah. If you look at the spinal curvature, look at the spine curvature. Lumbar spine is the most curving spine. So when you are doing a back bend, you are not opening the heart. Thoracic spine doesn't curve like a lumbar spine. What are you opening? You're opening a wrong organ. Then you will complain. I went to the class for heart opening and the kidney opened up. So, real heart opening. I have made a video also on this. What really means when they say, number one, in Sanskrit, nobody says heart opener. There is no word like open the heart and all that. Huh? What they say in the Upanishad and all is break the doubt in the heart. So cut the doubt from the heart. That is what they say. Actually, it's called a knot. Hridaya Granthi. Hridaya means heart and Granthi means knot. There's a very famous line. Bhindyate Hridaya Granthi Chindyante Sarva Samshaya means when you cut the knots of the heart, you are released from all doubts. Sanshaya means doubt. So once you cut the knot of the heart, you release yourself from all types of doubts. That is heart opening. So actually what heart opening means? Coming out of self-doubt. That's why that day I was talking somewhere, I think in a corporate seminar, and they asked me, can you just tell us properly what is yoga? I told them mind management. And these corporates understood immediately, because anything to do with management they understand. You say management, oh yeah. You say, can you really tell us what really is yoga? You say, yoga is a fantastic philosophy of mind management. Oh, mind management, yeah. Emotion management. Tapping into your efficiency. Oh. Yeah, but it is, no? Look at 2.47 of this Bhagavad Gita. That in second chapter it says, yoga is skill in action. That's efficiency. But what is that skill? The skill is mental control. It really is. Yoga is a path of mind management. If you want to sell it to corporates, you say science of mind management. Everything. Nothing, no religion, no spirituality in it. It's a science of mind management. It is. So how do you manage the mind? And then next level you tell them it's emotion management. Oh. You come to India, so many people have, these business coaches have written books on Bhagavad Gita wisdom for business management. Really. And some of them have really written very nicely. Nothing. Though Bhagavad Gita is not a business shastra, it's a moksha shastra. But still, if you say business is, like I'm a CEO and it's my dharma to make my company efficient, fine. That's karma yoga, no? When a CEO wants to create a good ethical, moral environment in his company using principles of Bhagavad Gita, no problem. Now imagine that line that we saw from chapter 3, that doing your dharma is better than wanting to do somebody else's dharma. If the company implements that policy, so nice. Everybody will create self-efficiency. Jealousy component will be less among the colleagues. Okay. Now, because of this, the next line. So, Krishna says, those who act under the impulse of desire, discarding the injunction of scripture, attain neither perfection nor happiness nor supreme goal. 23. Those who act under the impulse of desire, discarding the injunction of scripture. What does it mean? Again, don't look at it from some religion point of view. Here Shastra, scripture means Shastra. Here scripture is scripture of what it is? Scripture of mind management, personal development. So what is Krishna saying? If you don't follow the guidebooks that have been written for you to develop yourself, and just keep doing whatever you want to do out of your limited mind, you will all lose the way. I will say it again. Try to understand this. What is the scripture? When he says scripture, what is the scripture trying to help us with? The scripture is trying to help us with mind management, life management. So basically Krishna is saying these scriptures that we study are life management, mind management scriptures. Now these guidebooks are there And in spite of being there, if you ignore them and do whatever your limited mind feels, what will be the condition of the society? Chaotic. It will be a jungle law. It's like people, now imagine there is a police force and there are strict laws, and still because the police is taking bribe, everybody is robbing everybody. You understanding? And that is why the last line is important. Underline that last line 24, second part of the last line 24. Jnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartum iharhasi. Remember this. Let's chant it. Jnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartum iharhasi. So, what is Krishna concluding with? Therefore, let the scripture be your authority in determining what should be done and what should not be done. Understand the scriptural injunction and teachings and then perform your actions in this world accordingly. This is a line quoted when somebody asks you, why do you study yoga scriptures? They'll say, oh, what is the use of yoga scriptures? Why you study yoga scripture? So we say that yoga scriptures are guidebooks that tell us how to live our life efficiently. Yoga scriptures are guidebooks that tell us how to live our life efficiently. And that's why we study them. So if you really look at Bhagavad Gita or even the Upanishads, there's not much religion in them. If you really see, it's all about technique of mind management, self-development. Yeah, there are some aspects of bhakti and devotion, but they are also not really to keep you in the religion. They are also as a path of working out your mind. Are you understanding this? This should be taken very seriously and you should direct your attention on study of scripture. I am uploading all this on YouTube for you to revise. Because one sitting is not enough. Yeah, I will teach you and then you will go home. No, it has to go on and on and on and on in your mind. Remembrance is the key. Okay, so this chapter is done. Like I told you, we'll finish it in one day. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but you've heard all that anyway. No, I don't want to tell you what is anger and all that. We know, we've heard it 100 times. Now catch one, out of those divine qualities, focus on 2, 3. Out of the demonic qualities, focus on removing the 2, 3. And that's it, enough. Whatever comes in, look at that divine qualities and whatever comes naturally to you. Like some qualities will come naturally to you. Like there's a quality compassion. Now, not many people are compassionate, but for some it's natural. They really want to help others, and so whichever divine quality comes naturally to you, choose it and work on making it stronger. Like in the business, you do SWOT analysis, no? Strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. So when you are listing the strength, what do you do with the strength? You conserve the strength or increase the strength. Weakness, you reduce. Same way, if you see some demonic qualities in you, then you focus on reducing them. That's it, really. That's why it's a very, very sweet, cute little chapter. Really, 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 again, I'm telling you that living in context of externalities is great, but ultimately you're going to find your peace only within. Nothing wrong living in external focused life, but realize real peace will come only from within. It's like when you're very, very thirsty, you drink Coca-Cola. But no, you need water. Has it ever happened to you? Only the thirst that the pure water can quench, nothing else can quench the thirst. Juice and all, yeah, it's fine. You're outside somewhere, you drink some juice, you're fine. But when you come home, you just drink water, and it's like that. Till now, we have been drinking Coca-Cola, juice, coffee, this, that, thinking that all this will take care of our thirst. But what we need is pure water. Not even aqua mineral. Pure stream water, tap water. And that's why the attitude should be of play. Otherwise, things get very serious as a yogi. Oh, detachment. Play with it. It's Prakriti. Look, I'll tell you something very honestly. No matter how much you may hate Prakriti, there is no escape. Remember, even in Sankhya and even in Yoga Sutra, even after realization, what has Patanjali wrote? After self-realization, Purusha and Prakriti stand next to each other. You're not getting rid of her. She just doesn't put her nose in your business. That's it. Just take it in a very light way. Take your life very lightly. Even your pains and even your troubles. Really cultivate the attitude of looking at life as transient, flowing, going by. Okay, so this is a very good message.